Hi folks, Fuzz here, just popped outside for a moment where it's a little bit lighter than indoors, so hopefully I can show you this. I've actually decided to install Final Fantasy VII, the 1998, original 1998 PC version. There it is in all its glory. The reason I want to do this is because I want to mod the game, and modding the game is basically 100 times easier on the PC version from 1998 than it is on the later PC releases that have come out a little bit later, such as the 2012 release and the Steam release, which came out a couple of years after that. So one of the problems I'm expecting is that this game is probably not going to necessarily want to work immediately with Windows 10, which is obviously what I'm using. So I thought it'd be an interesting thing to see if it's going to be a game we can get up and work quite easily, or if we're going to have to go through various tricks and whatnot in order to have some success with this. So without any further ado guys, let's go ahead and see what happens. I've gone ahead and popped the install disc into the drive, and I've no idea what to expect here. So originally on the PlayStation, Final Fantasy VII came on 3 discs. On the PC version it came on 4, the 3 play discs plus the install disc, which is what I've gone ahead and inserted here. So let's go ahead and select setup. This may or may not work. I'm hoping that it might do. Windows 10 is, at least according to Microsoft, supposed to be, you know, fairly good at detecting the compatibility settings of older programs and whatnot. But this is a 1998 disc, so who knows what's going to happen here. Now, one thing I do remember from this version of Final Fantasy VII is that in order to stop piracy, you did have to actually have the game discs in the drive in order to play. The movies, for example, were always played off the disc. They were never copied over to the hard drive. So we're just waiting here, and hopefully this is actually going to install for us. Final Fantasy VII setup. Okay, this is looking promising. So far, it's working without me having to adjust any settings. Hey! The setup program. So we'll just go through this. Now, what do I want to install? I don't want to install DirectX 5 drivers. I have no idea if we've got DirectX Show or not, or Direct Show. So we'll just go ahead and select that, and we'll go for maximum install, which will require 460 megabytes of space. Although if we're going to find a way of doing this without a disc later on in the drive, then we're going to have to copy the movies across. It says available space 2 gigabytes, but that's just not true. I've got about 140 gigabytes free on this solid state drive that the game's going to install to. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and accept. And wow, this is old school. I actually remember this. It's been so many years since I've installed this edition of Final Fantasy VII. The playthrough that I did on my channel back in 2012 was the 2012 version of the game, which installed obviously completely different to this. So it's got to be 15 years, I reckon, since I last saw this screen. But I'm remembering it now that I'm looking at it, and the nostalgia's coming back to me. So everything's going to install off this one disc. I won't have to swap discs during this process. And then when we want to play the game, we'll have to pop disc 1 in. So I'll skip ahead at this point. And we get a readme file here. So system requirements, Pentium 133 is absolutely required with a 3D accelerator card with 4 megabytes of video memory or greater. My goodness, doesn't technology improve very, very quickly? So hopefully my GTX 1080 Ti with its 11,000 megabytes of video memory will be sufficient. And I'm running Windows 10, so I'm not running Windows 95 or any form of Windows 95 emulator. So this is why I'm really just hopefully going to be able to get into the game first time here, but we'll see what happens. Oh, we need to restart Windows, do we? It's been a while since I've had to do that after installing a game. So I've just restarted the computer, went to load the game, and the first thing that happens is the configuration. Graphics, we are going to be running at the highest possible settings, which is 640 by 480, 16-bit palette, with pass on everything except 8-bit paletted textures for some strange reason. That has a fail. I'm not sure how that's going to affect the actual game itself. We'll have to wait and see if it even works at all. So we'll go ahead and just keep the other settings as they are, not that we have much choice. And sound, we will just be using the default sound. Seems to be working, which is good. And we get to hear the fantastic PC music, which was absolutely atrocious. I was being sarcastic there. So this was 100 times worse even than what the PlayStation edition got the year before. And that's because for some reason, I've no idea why they did this, Square decided to replace the original PlayStation music with MIDI versions of those files. Whether that was to do with saving space on the discs, I have no idea. Well, so far so good. Oh my goodness, those FMVs are pixelated. But hey, I'm not actually getting any response here. Okay, X doesn't seem to do anything. Okay, now it's... I think I've got it there. Okay, so the controls are not the same as the 2012 and Steam releases of Final Fantasy VII. You have to actually use the controls of the numpad. So the WASD keys not working, the normal arrow keys on the keyboard don't do anything, but the arrow keys on the numpad, what's giving me access to the pointer, to the cursor here, and I have to actually select the small enter key on the numpad in order to actually activate or select anything. So Final Fantasy VII, the 1998 version, is controlled with the numpad on the keyboard. So if you don't have a numpad, then you're pretty screwed, it's got to be said. And yes, this looks atrocious, and the reason for that, I'm not sure why this was. I'm guessing again something to do with space saving. The PlayStation movies were compressed down horribly for the 1998 release on PC, which is why you have all of this noise here on the FMV. It looks terrible. It didn't look like this the year before on the PlayStation version. The Steam edition and I believe the 2012 edition did correct this. They did use the full quality FMVs, but the 1998 was probably the worst PC release of the game, and it was the first PC release as well. That's why it's looking terribly pixelated and noisy. But I'm going to be quiet here through the rest of the cutscene, and then we'll see how the game itself looks and plays. If it, in fact, you know, it does actually work, which I'm hoping it will now since we've got this far. Here we go then, and listen to that MIDI music. Oh, that is atrocious. Well, the good news is the game is actually working, and it's been absolutely headache free, I've got to say, in getting this thing installed. So I am surprised. I did not expect this to work first time without any patches or anything like that. And one of the things that you are going to notice if you play the Final Fantasy VII 98 release, having played some of the later releases, or indeed if you play the PlayStation release, the original one, is that you're not going to run by default. You actually have to hold down one of these buttons here. Okay, on the version that I'm playing, it's the 0 key on the numpad. This is really awkward, and there's nothing you can do. There's no setting to change this. You have to hold it down the entire time, throughout the entire game, whenever you want to run. Okay, as soon as you let go of that, you're going to be walking again. Okay, there's no option in the menu to change that. So it's a little bit annoying, but there we go. You can actually get two potions off the first guard here, which on the later releases, he will only have one. But by collecting two off this guy, the guy up here will not have any at all. So I'm not going to play a whole lot of this game, just literally testing it out. before we start looking at modding this experience and seeing what we can do with it. So the actual text and what have you is a big improvement over the PlayStation version. In fact, the models themselves, you might not be able to notice this coming from perhaps a later release if you've played Final Fantasy VII recently on PS4 or even on PC. But the graphics are actually an upgrade here over the original PlayStation release of the game. So even though we're only playing in 640 by 480 resolution at the moment, which is the highest the game supported, it is in fact an improvement over the original. Graphics wise, sound and everything else, FMVs are utterly atrocious. So let's go ahead here and just access the menu briefly. So pretty much the menu is the same as the later releases of the game. But it's really awkward doing this on the numpad. Every part of the controls is on this section of the keyboard, which isn't particularly helpful, it's got to be said. So yeah, there's no difference here in terms of the menus. And yeah, 0 is cancel, which is also the run key. And enter is the select key. So all of the bad translations which have been fixed in the later releases will also be present here in the 98 release. Although I don't think there's much of that at the start of the game, but it does come a little bit later on. Here he comes, the big guy himself. And we'll see how the FMV works here, since it has to be loaded off the disc. There might be some lag, I'm not sure. Yeah, a little bit of lag there. But I actually remember playing back in the day, 1998, and you'd have to wait like 5 to 10 seconds every time an FMV was about to load. Since, you know, CD drives weren't as impressive as they are nowadays, and of course, you know, most computers probably don't even have CD or DVD drives anymore. For some reason, I'm still using a Blu-ray drive, an internal Blu-ray drive on this computer, which is helpful for projects such as this one. Alright then guys, I'm not going to go much further than this. The game's working clearly, which is obviously a good thing, and I've not had to use any patches or anything like that in order to get it to do so. So how much further we'll be able to progress without it crashing, I'm not sure, but I'm going to call it quits there. So what I'm going to go and do now is, behind the scenes, install a whole bunch of mods and see how that works with the 1998 version of the game, because the Steam version and the 2012 version, as I mentioned, are a little bit annoying to mod, and hopefully we'll get the game looking, you know, a lot more beautiful than it is, and in particular, perhaps sounding a lot more beautiful than it is as well. And do come back and check that out, so I'll upload that as a second video. But yeah, there we go guys, 1998 version of Final Fantasy VII still works on modern PCs with Windows 10. So thanks for stopping by today. Let me know what you think of this in the comment section below. Did you actually have this yourself back in the day when it first came out? And if so, do you still have it, and are you going to install it and see how you get on with it? It's strange actually to see how much has changed with the later releases of the game. But thanks guys, that's it for me for now. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.